thank you all for being here. Thank you, Vikas, for coming. I know this has been a long ways in the works. And I'm tempted, given all the things I just said, to start at the beginning and begin with your childhood. And there's just fascinating stories. I'm frankly more worried about than anything else about getting through all the things in your life that are worth discussing. But I mentioned all these people, dignitaries, world leaders, who you have come to spend, it seems like, quality time with in the last few years. And before we go back to the beginning, can you explain, because we are asked this often, how it is, and I think we have some photos here, there they are, how it is that, granted, you're a great chef and you've produced a great book, but how and why is it that you have spent time with all these world leaders? There are a lot of people who achieve great things in life and never meet or spend time with any of them. Just to get you started.
I think it's, hi everyone, I'm Vikas. I think it's just pure destiny. People think that they're too smart or they're very well educated, but eventually there's a card of destiny, which we'll have to believe it. You know, I'm an immigrant first, so when we come here, it is also impossible for us to tell our children what it is to be an immigrant. When you leave everything behind, you believe in one thing, destiny. Especially to this great country, where you come, you leave everything familiar, everything you ever known, every street you ever walked, the house you ever lived, the people you've ever known. You leave everything behind and you come to this land. Only a first generation can understand. I know your parents came from Poland, right?
I was going to say, my dad came from Poland, my mother came from Norway. You know, God bless them, but they didn't have these kinds of experiences. Okay. So you have to...
So you will have to believe in something called destiny. I think when you start working on something which brings one word, I feel, is pride. You can do a lot of work in your life, but the moment your people start feeling the word pride, it is a different level emotion, which I had never experienced, the word that you can make people patriotic and make them fall in love with their native country again because you wrote something about it, or you produced something, or you photographed something. I think then you become you start creating a tribe, that people start following you, who say that, you know, this is, then you don't win, we win. It's a victory for a lot of people. And I think that is what happened. I remember when Prime Minister, or even when I was meeting with Queen Elizabeth, they told me not to stand in the line, because he's saying everybody stands in the line. Even Marilyn Monroe stood in the line. But they didn't make me stand in the line. They said, no, because you've got this pride. And this is what the High Commissioner's office told me. This guy, Asim, he said, we can't tell you that, you know, what you've given us is like you've glamorized and you've focused the simplicity and the honesty of India's common man. And that pride, we can't just, it doesn't happen to us every day. That when you see the work or you hear the name, you put your hand on your heart and say, I think that is what happened. It started as this, that people who were working in His Holiness office, they were like, no, this guy has done something which is an incredible story of India, about the common man's little festivals and rituals and ceremonies.
But just to be clear, that was all referring to this, is that right? Yeah. And so maybe we should talk for a moment then, again, before we go back to the beginning, about, and when I say this, it's hard really to say it in a few words. I think it took a dozen years of your life, because being a great chef was not enough, right? And it is, you know, somebody referred to it as a coffee table book. I don't know any coffee table that, you know, I mean, talk a little bit about how the book came to be, and was that then what started to open some doors?
Honest?
Yeah. What else?
So I was studying I went to take a summer course in a very big university.
And I'm sorry, these, by the way, are some photos that are
most of the pictures are taken by me. Most of the pictures I took. The greatest teacher is poverty. You become so resourceful when you're poor. You figure out that you need to shoot yourself. You can't be a diva saying, I can't travel, I need a photographer, I need somebody to coordinate my trip. And no, the only way this could happen I went to this university to do a summer course, and I was writing something on how faith actually has such a big implication on food. So I started writing this documentary series, which I produced much later, which was actually premiered right here in this hall in 2010, November 11th.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Circle. And this guy tells me, he's saying, this is great thing what you're writing about. I was raised in Amritsar. It's a North Indian town where there's a golden temple right next to my house. The temple serves free food to everyone. Like, imagine a city where everyone contributes a little bit and there's no one who sleeps hungry. Imagine a real form of democracy and secularism where anybody can go and eat, anybody can go and cook, anybody can be a part of that structure. You go, you clean, and it became a part of my first training as a chef. And I think I was writing about that, and this guy tells me, saying, whatever you write, he really helped me. He really wanted to break me up, break me and crush me, but he is the one I must thank. I don't want to name him and validate him, but he's saying, whatever you write, you're still going to be 10 times less than me. First time I heard something, and I knew what, I said, it must be my English. My English has really improved for people who have not met me earlier. I wouldn't speak a single sentence. I would laugh when people would ask, yes, no. This was my English when I came. But he really pushed me hard, and I said, is it my English, sir? He's saying, no. And he looked at my skin. It was a wake-up call for me. It was somebody telling me that your work, your art, your craft, whatever you will produce will depend on your pigmentation. I went back home. In my wallet, I always carry this picture for the last maybe, I don't know how many years. I always have this picture where these two pictures are, I'm feeding my grandmother. She was not well that time. And she had kind of a little bit lost her memory. And that's my parents. And I saw it and I said, how can my skin be my skin is something which was given to me by centuries of union and families coming together, and I'm a product of that. This should be my strength, not something which makes me weak. I went back to the guy next day, and I waited outside the library till he came back, and I said, listen, he's saying, what? I said, I don't want to be equal to you. I want to be better than you. 11 times better. And I said, I will create something which will, for me, in my space and my ability, it will be 10 times or 11 times better than what you would create. And that is what made me feel that I've got to create something which is, even for me, it will be difficult to break this code now. What else can I write which could be? And you know, when I submitted this book, it was 200,000 images. I really got carried away.
But explain, if you would, because a lot of people here may not know, just to the basics of what it is and what you were trying to accomplish.
Festivals of India. And when you look at India, you might feel it's a country which is, it's like somebody asking me, what is European cuisine? I don't know what European cuisine is. It's a combination of so many different cuisines, exactly what India is. It is so complicated, yet it's so simple. You had, a lot of people will be surprised when I say this. The first immigrants to India were Jews. First immigrants to India were Jews. Imagine a country which we don't even know celebrates Rosh Hashanah, Hanukkah. Somebody sent me, 6 months ago, somebody sent me a cedar plate from their house, a family heritage, a 300-year-old cedar plate, and said, my family has moved to America, but only you will take care of it. I'm starting a museum on utensils. So somebody sent it to me from Pune.
Wow.
And I think that is what a simple story. You have Parsis, Zoroastrians, which came to India. You have Mughals. You have all the combination of so many people who came to the country. Some came to invade, but some came from asylum. And you have Tibetans which came and became home for them. And, I thought it was so interesting. And then you had the native cuisines, the tribal cuisines, their festivals. And it was overwhelming for me. But I got very lucky because I had practiced this book on a book which is still one of my favorites. This is my second favorite child. It was called Return to the Rivers, where I traveled to the Himalayas with a very small camera and I started taking pictures. I was totally broke and everything. Purnima restaurant, 54th Street, had just closed. And I started writing a book. And it was amazing because His Holiness Dalai Lama, in his lecture in Beacon Theatre, said, there's nothing as death. It's always changing forms. I bow to that line. There's nothing as the end, because that was the end of my career, and so many people thought that So I thought it was one thing which was leading to the other. Trying to become 11 times better, but you don't know how to write. You have no idea how to take photograph. But you taught yourself. You went out, you taught yourself, and you read a lot. I must have taken more books on how to speak English from New York Public Library than anybody in history.
You did very well. Okay, so Vikas, let's go back to Amritsar and your early life. And I was thinking in talking to you and reading about your early life that it's a bit of a cliche to say we learn from our struggles, and pain brings us sometimes to you have to experience pain to experience better things in your life. But in your case, it's no cliche at all. And I mentioned in the opening remarks that that you had this disability with your feet, and that basically left you at home. And explain, if you would, because it seems quite evident that had you been out running around with the other kids, your path might have been very different, right? What was it your grandmother said? I don't want to put words in your mouth, and by the way, I think, oh, there he is.
My favorite T-shirt. And
so explain what, first of all, your condition was.
A lot of Americans would not know about this condition. We live in such a privileged country. It's called club feet, in which your feet are inside. So when I was born during India-Pakistan war, and all the hospitals, everything was filled with casualties, and all the army people, they were using the civilian hospitals for those things. And I was born, and we were given, most of us were given birth at home. It's a very difficult thing when I say that to Americans. They find it so funny that, how can you be born at home? Yeah, everybody's born at home for us. They have I still remember, there's a hot water bucket, and that's it. And there are a lot of towels or old pillow covers which will be used, and the child comes
but we're
out.
talking about your birth, which you do not remember. So let's go.
So they panicked. They saw my feet were towards inside, which is a lot of people in my culture think that you're a ghost, because your feet inside is a very symbolic thing that you're not a human, you're a ghost. And my mother just refused, and within a few days, she took me to Delhi, and she got my first operation done. So she went to a doctor, and they saw that the disability was so severe that he will never be able to walk like other kids. And then India didn't make shoes at that time, of those club feet shoes. They used to come from China. So they were made out of wood. So you were wearing wooden shoes, and you don't understand, it's very difficult to explain that when you're that age, your feet become so big so fast. And every time the shoe will come, it will be like, we'll take 3-4 sizes bigger than this, so that it stays with me for at least 1-2 years. And then your shoe is too big, and then you put newspapers in front to balance it. So I used to make such big shoes, so that, we don't have to run and buy new shoes when your feet don't fit in. And then your feet, and then I'll be scared to tell my parents that now it's the time to change the shoe, because the shoe would be, it used to make too much of noise. It was like thunderstorms. So every time you'll walk, and it was so heavy. And it's a lot of people hide their disabilities in families. It's part of culture. But my mother would speak very openly about it, that yes, it's a gift also. He's learning something new about life. And I loved it, because she always said that he's never want to walk. When people say, oh, look at how funny your son walks. Oh, he's not walking, actually. He's going to fly. Just wait. He's got some stone tied on his feet, and one day he's going to fly. And I used to believe it. Somehow I used to believe it. And in the night I'll dream that one day I take off my shoes and I start leaving the earth and I'm flying.
It wasn't too far off. I mean, but did it basically mean then that you were stuck in the house or in the house more?
Yeah,
or
most of the time.
And what did that mean? Talk a little bit about the experiences you then had with, I think she's up there too, your grandmother, and time in the kitchen then.
Yeah.
I mean, is that really true, or has this been overstated that you really started to get interested? Because I assume most of the boys were not, sitting around the kitchen most days.
There was a survey in India last year where they said that 48% men want to become chefs.
Really? Is that because of you?
No, not because of me. It is so amazing that this art form has taken something so big. When I started my first business, actually, in back of my house, We used to sell fried breads, me and my grandmother. And everybody used to make fun of it. Everybody used to make fun of it. That he shouldn't be doing this, he should be studying or become an engineer. My brother was brilliant. He was like, my teachers would say, were you adopted? And I'm like, no, I'm same family. What happened? He's 100 out of 100 in mathematics and you're 0. And I said, I get very confused with numbers. And teacher's like, but you should be getting at least passing marks. And they threw me out of the school. And they said, we kept you in the school because your brother was so brilliant. We said things would change, but we don't see any change. And here you bring flat bread for a teacher and say that, would you try my bread? And this doesn't work here. But it's really changed. India's really changed. In the last few years, it's really changed. I see that there has been a more diversified form of careers, choices now, which we were not given as kids. Middle class now.
Right, and I don't want to obsess about you and your grandmother, but you did, as I understand it, you saw her a lot, you watched, you smelled what she was cooking and all that, and then you started to do a little of it yourself. And did you start to have some success?
No.
No.
No. I started a business when I was 16. In back of my house, there was a beauty parlor. And the lady who was running the beauty parlor, she had a breakup with her mother-in-law, so they had to move. So I was so happy about it. And there was a small room, and I said, let's do parties here. And everybody said, this is crazy. My father used to have a video cassette library. Nobody would know that. It's like, there was a time in history, just like 30 years ago, where there would be magnetic tapes.
It's okay. Some of us remember. Yeah.
And I used to be his delivery boy. Yeah, not a good one. But then we had the money and we wanted to figure out a way to start a business. But my father said that, how are you going to start a catering business? You need plates, or you need pots and pans and chairs and tables. And I'm like, it doesn't matter, we will buy it. And it was summer in 1990. And my mother and me, we used to go to school, and during the break, we don't have the system what we have here. The kids get they can go to school and they can eat there. In us, there are small canteens where the kids can eat. Generally, people bring the food from home. The kids, mothers cook every morning for them, and we used to sell breads. And one day, the principal said, "Why don't you give us some sweaters?" And I mentioned that in my book, Flavors First, for the first time. Hiroko is here, and she's the one who insisted that I should put the story in the book. And I learned how to knit sweaters, and we made about $10,000. And we bought everything, 1 tandoor, pots, pans, 24 chairs, 23 plates. I remember everything in detail.
Wow.
And we started a business.
But this sounds like a success.
No, we never made any money from there. Because any auntie who will come, she'll do a party there, and she'll always say, oh, the food is not good, you don't know how to cook. And I'll say, okay, don't pay. Don't fight with me. And then she'll be happy. I said, don't pay, because I'm so happy that you are happy. And my father said, you should change the name from Lawrence Garden Caterers to Lawrence Garden Charity. Because I've never seen a rupee coming from this business, and I don't hope you're going to ever make money. But it was so great training for me. I learned something which is priceless in hospitality. That's being patient.
Wow, yeah. And you could knit sweaters. We're going to have to skip right over that.
Yeah.
Just in the interest of time, let's go now, because, you did start, modesty aside, to have some successes in your native country. And then, as I understand it, 2000, right? I believe it was your brother who inspired you in some way, but you decide to leave India, leave Amritsar, and come here with what sounds like an unbelievable, and not surprising just listening to what you've said so far, unbelievable level of ambition and dream, but very little in the way of any plans or money or anything else. Talk a little bit about what got you to the point where you said, I'm coming to America.
My brother was very obsessed with Richard Bach. I don't know how many of you know. Richard Bach is one of the amazing god of philosophy. I think Richard Bach is not an author, he's a religion.
Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
He had a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and he gave me that book. And I read the book. I said, oh, what's the big deal? The seagull learns how to fly. And I used to be very busy because I'll be cooking for weddings and, because in India we have a 10-day wedding. So it's amazing for caterers and almost everybody gets married. So it's even amazing for caterers. And he's saying, do this. And before that, there was a little incident with the government official who broke my ceiling. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So there was a little shed where we used to do parties there. And the shed, one day, the government officials came and they broke the ceiling. And and that really broke my heart, because when I saw the ceiling coming down, when it fell, I created the whole thing by myself. It was a very small place. It was half the size of, a little bit bigger than this, like this much only. Yeah. And the shed broke, and it broke my heart, and it rained the same day. Oh. And when the things were falling down, and I was yelling and crying, don't break it. If there's a fine, we'll pay the fine. And my father said, oh, let them do it. I don't know what was the things between, sometimes, whatever happened. But it was amazing, because when the things were falling on the ground, they were also like, what do you call it, when they fly? When something falls, it also... So it was breaking the glass of the place. It was breaking the plates, and they had no patience, and it broke all my glasses and everything. It, more than the glasses and everything, broke my heart. And we were sitting on the terrace. My brother said, do you remember Richard Bach? I said, no. Who's that? He's saying, I gave you the book about that. I said, yeah, the little bird which flies. He's saying, it was not about the bird. It was about you.
So your mother had said, right, it doesn't matter that you can't run, you're going to fly. Yeah. And your brother says, remember, okay.
Everyone was in denial. It's a family in denial. The son is going to fly one day.
And then you literally fly, and you get to JFK, right?
I went in when I got for the visa. They don't give visa to my age people, not boys. It's 30 years old, coming from North India. It's very difficult for us to get visa, because they obviously put you in a category that you're going to not come back, which was true. But I told him everything honestly. I I said, they broke the shed, and it broke my heart. And he's saying, okay, what do you want me to do? I said, my brother gave me this book on Jonathan Livingston Seagull.
You tell the immigration guy all this
stuff? And he's like, okay, is it connected to you going to America? I said, yeah, this is all connected, because I feel America is calling me. And
so even the most hard-hearted immigration officer is going to say...
And I said, I cook so many dishes. Last week I was doing cabbage, and I did like 16 different types of cabbage. And he's like, okay, what do you want me to do? And I said, I also heard that they do pick a lot of cabbage in Korea. There was no internet, you have to understand. There was no internet. So everything which came to us as information stuck in my mind. Now nothing sticks. And I told him everything, whatever I knew. It's like when there's a little kid at home. The kid, every time a guest comes, the kid brings all the toys to show the guest, one by one. So I was like that, I got my admission, and they gave a sympathy vote for me to give me admission. But, I did very well in my banquet. And he's saying, one day I did a catering for 300 people. It rained and it failed, but it was amazing. It's like, I don't know what I said, I feel something in America is waiting for me. I just wouldn't be able to live in the same place and work, because that ceiling kills me. Because my kitchen never had a ceiling, and every time it rained, my mother used to hold an umbrella when I was cooking. And I think he was like, get the F out of here and take 10 years. I'm not giving any ideas to anyone to do that, but I'm just saying that. And he says, he gave me visa for 10 years, and I came to America.
Wow. Now, we have to jump around a little bit, but if we can show the picture of Vikas in the shelter. And I assume this is when you went back to visit, because you look like, right? I mean, so this is the New York Rescue Mission, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit either about that place or just about the early, did you think that you were going to come here and all your ambitions and dreams were going to be realized immediately? Did you figure you might have a tough time at the outset? And what got you to this place?
Nobody dreams of becoming homeless.
No.
It's nobody's plan. We plan ourselves, okay, this year I'm going to buy a house, and this year I'm going to buy a mansion, I'm going to buy a summer home here, I'm going to buy a winter home here. We plan that. We never say that in November I'm going to go homeless. Nobody plans that. It just happened to me. It just events, no money, nothing. People cheat also. I think people take advantage also. But those are the people who really help you because they put good things in perspective. So it was near Christmas and the deli I used to work for was closed. Nobody told me because I didn't have a cell phone. You couldn't get a cell phone without social security at that time in 2000. I didn't have anything. And this is all pre-9/11. Everything is transformed after that. And nobody told me, and I'm like, oh my God, $3 in my pocket. Subway was $1.50. I said, I can go and have a Mac burger, and then I can walk to Queens, and tomorrow morning I can come. I'm in my brain, I'm only thinking about that. And then I'm walking just one block below Canal Street, and I see a line of people standing outside. And it was New York Rescue Mission. And I'm standing in the line. I asked the guy, he's saying, oh, there's a Christmas party here. It's a mission. And I already have a big fight with the landlords, like the guys who were sharing the room. We were like 6 people in the room, and I had not paid. Because, a restaurant is like so much cash business. People say, okay, we'll pay you next week, we'll pay you. It happens. We know that this is... And I'm standing there, and a woman comes in, and it was freezing. Any immigrant which comes from my part of the world has big issue with New York winters. You don't know how to wear shoes. You don't know how to understand temperature. You don't know what thermals are. Everything is wet. Like your shoes are wet, the socks are wet. You're never warm enough. And you look at Americans walking, and they're walking so nicely, and it's like because they dress up properly. And then she gave me a blanket, and she says, "Merry Christmas." And I had decided that this is never going to be my country somehow. We go down in the basement. If anybody's been to New York Rescue Mission, you should go and see that beautiful place. It's home. It's always going to be my first home. And I'm very lucky Craig is here, who runs that place, who's a CEO, and he's one of my big... He's been my anchor for years. And I went there, and and the guy said, "Are you going to stay here for the night?" So I gave my wrong name. You're embarrassed. I'll be honest. You're embarrassed. You're very ashamed. You want to hide your face. And that happens to you in life. You want to feel that you can become invisible. And I go, and he says, "You want to stay here?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Okay, I'll save $1.50 if I don't go back." This is what I'm thinking. And then I stayed there. I don't remember when I came out. I remember exactly going inside, sleeping on the beds. Now everything is changed. The picture you've seen, this is all changed. This is totally changed. This has become so much better. It's like, Craig knows, it always had the soul. But I volunteered in the kitchen. I got my catering order from there. I did my first business from their kitchen. They allowed me to do cooking and take it out. I used to do that. The chef was like, "Okay, whatever you want." I used to cook for them, volunteer every evening. And I was there. And I think it was amazing when I thought that I can't fall lower than breaking out that ceiling. I fell even lower than that. But one thing you lose is self-respect that time. You lose your own dignity. And this guy was sleeping next to me, and he was crying all night because he was missing home for Christmas. And he says, "My family has thrown me out, and I have no place to go." And there was another guy who was playing radio that and the Walkmans was there before iPods. And so he was listening to Christmas carols, and he was crying. Those sounds are so powerful in my mind because I know you don't plan this, but this can happen to anyone. But the beauty of this is that you figure out one day that tomorrow the sun is going to rise, and you say, "Tomorrow I'm going to be on my feet."
Wow. And that's 17 years ago, right?
Yeah, 17 years ago.
Right. So it's almost absurd to jump from that to... By the way, just to leaven this with a little bit of humor, I don't know how to ask the question, so I'm just going to give the answer to it. But we were talking on the phone, and one of my favorite things that Vikas told me about his first experiences as a dishwasher and then a waiter was he comes to this country and somebody asks for a shot of wild turkey, and he thinks he has to go to the kitchen and cook up some meat for him. Like,
I didn't know wild turkey. I thought we have tandoori chicken. Eat tandoori chicken. He's saying, "No, I want wild turkey." What? I said, "Turkey, wild turkey. What do you mean by wild turkey?" And then he said, "Mango lassi." I got upset with him. I said, you shouldn't drink lassi in the night. We at home, in India, nobody drinks lassi at night. Please, I'm telling you, it's an afternoon drink, and there's nothing as mango lassi. I started fighting with the guest, and he went and complained. He's saying, oh, he's a dishwasher, we are less staff, that's why I brought him outside. I'm fighting with this couple. I said, no, you shouldn't be having.
At any rate, so, it's not that long ago, and, we do have to fast forward a little bit, but so you go from jobless, homeless, no apparent prospects other than cooking for the rescue mission, and not that many years later, you're a Michelin-starred chef. So help us, please, to understand a little bit about that progression.
Destiny.
Ah.
It's a lottery, I'm telling you.
It's what, a lottery?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all buy tickets. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I have so many friends who work with me, and they buy a ticket every day. And they keep cursing themselves. I said one day to this girl who was my assistant, I said, she's saying, again, I didn't win anything. She came on Monday, and she's saying, I bought 20 tickets, and I got this. Every Monday, she'll tell me the same story. I said, but you already won. She's saying, why? I said, you came to work on your feet. It's a lottery. You're breathing, it's a lottery. It's a lottery that there are a billion of combinations in your body. They're working, it's a lottery. And she held my hand, and she sat first. And she's saying, why didn't you tell me before? I could have saved so much money. I never felt Jen. And she said to me, how did you come up with that idea? I said, because every day you were so unthankful. Every day you don't know where we come from. I was born and raised in wars in my city. 1984 riots were the worst riots India has seen. My grandparents lived through the partition where 1 million people died. I said, we come from that family where sometimes the child dreams to become a chef, but there's no food at home. Irony of life. But I have come to a conclusion that a child which doesn't have shoes, the chances of him to become the Olympic gold medalist is more. Who doesn't have food, there's a chance that that child can become a Michelin-starred chef more than the one who has abundance. I'm not disrespecting people who give the kids abundance, but you've got to keep them hungry for something. You've got to keep them hungry. You've got to keep them craving for something, that everything is not on their footstep. Everything is not that credit card swipe. I think you kept that hunger alive in you. A lot of people think it just happened that you got this Michelin star, but it didn't happen like that. On August 23rd, 2004, for the first time in my entire life and career, first time in my life, people stood up to applause for me.
What was the occasion?
James Beard House. I was cooking at the James Beard House. I did the dinner.
I'm sorry. Just again, a little bit of perspective. In 2000, you're cooking for the New York Rescue Mission just because they say, sure, you can do it. And 4 years later, you're cooking at the James Beard House.
I used to work in a restaurant downtown, but I also used to do a food stall on Tribeca Film Festival. And some woman came there who was talking to me, and she asked me, what is this dish? And of course, I could not explain. So I said, and I'm giving her all the Hindi names, thinking that she's like, can you speak English? So I told her things that, I add gulkand. Gulkand is candied rose petals, which I came to know much later in life. So in India, you have these things in which they candy the rose petals. It's a very old tradition. And I was using that in dessert. I was making mousse out of it. And she thought that was amazing. There was no rose essence and no fake colors, no scents, nothing. Just candied rose petals. I said, oh, this is very common. It's a gulkand mousse. And she's like, oh, gulkand shrikand. It's like a yogurt dip. And it's like just thick yogurt with that rose. And she's saying, oh my God, who taught you that? I said, oh, everybody makes this in India. He's saying, oh. And she's telling me, but you look very mixed. I said, what? I'm like very confused. And I said, madam, what? She's saying, you look very exotic. And I've never heard that. Nobody has seen me also, because nobody cares, If somebody serving you or cooking for you. And I thought she's referring to me in exotic animals. That's what we used to hear. And I said, really? I said, everybody looks like me in India. And he says, you have your phone number? I said, no. And she said, okay, I'm going to come and find you. After a few months, she approached me to do a menu for the James Beard House on August 23rd. I was standing there, and they said, can you come on the first floor? I said, no. I said, because people call a chef in a restaurant 2 times. I think, if the food is not good, they say, come here. You don't know how to cook? Who taught you? Who gave you this job? And you say, okay, I'm sorry, I'll do it better. That's how, or I won't charge you, I'll replace the dish. Or second, if you're walking in the restaurant, say, hey, where's the bathroom? Then their third question. And they said, we're coming up. I said, they didn't like the food. No, they loved the food, they want to see you. I go up and people stood up. You know, it's very difficult for me to explain that if you take time back 13 years, that I'm still living in past. When people stood up to applause when I walked in, I thought I made a mistake, I went out. It was so much shocking for me. And they gave me an apron to sign, and I signed right next to Daniel Boulud. Because I stole a menu from his restaurant one time. Because the dinner was so expensive, I said, I have to take something back with me. I can't leave this. I'm an Indian, I'll always find for a bargain. So I stole the menu and hiding it here throughout. And then I saw him, and I'm so shocking. It's like in person in front of me. I go there alone to eat. I saved money and knew it. Amazing. And I'd heard of him, a legend. And I got so excited. I had a camera from Duane Reade. That time you used to get disposable cameras. So you used to wait for 2 months till you finish that camera and then you develop it. And I got so excited, I gave him the camera and said, can you take a picture of me? I didn't have a picture with Daniel Boulud. I had a picture Daniel Boulud took of me. And when I developed it, I said, but I said, don't
we didn't have selfies then.
Yeah.
You know,
and I'm like so happy that I stole it. And I'm talking to him and like this, that this menu falls off. It is so embarrassing.
Okay, so Vikas, in a minute we're going to invite another special guest up here, but I do want to, I keep doing this, jumping ahead, but all these people you've cooked for, explain how it came to be that you cooked for Barack and Michelle Obama.
I used to have a cafe which I used to consult for Rubin Museum of Art. It's still one of my temples, one of the most amazing places, because I was passing...
And the Asia Society, I mean, the 2 temples, right?
Yeah. I shouldn't be talking.
I'm sorry. I'm joking. It's a joke.
Because so many times you've done an endorsement and you start talking about the other brand. And they're telling me, cut off his mic.
No. Okay, sorry.
So, I used to have a cafe there. So they were hosting President Barack Obama for re-elections and did that. Before that, there was a woman called Anju Bhargava. And she was hosting an event at the White House to promote Indian culture, and I wanted to promote the Gandhian cuisine, like what Mahatma Gandhi used to eat. And we got together, then we did a whole event from morning to night at the White House. And then at the reception, at the...
Reception.
Yeah. So President was also there, and it was amazing. And I was so nervous that time. My grandmother was alive. So I wanted to call home. I must tell you this. Yeah. This is very endearing. So I called my grandmother and I told her that I was very nervous. And it's early morning in India. And when president is coming in-house, people don't know. It's panic attacks. You can't have glass. We told you, we send you so many emails. And I don't read emails. I understand. I have dyslexia. And I can't, and I've given so much of instructions, I didn't read everything. We told you can't do this. And I was very nervous. I go to the bathroom, I make a phone call early in the morning to my home. And I'm telling my dad, can I speak to BG? And my dad is like, why are you calling so early in the morning? I said, no, it's night here. And big confusion, first of all. I have to clarify that every time. Why are you up so early? It's like, no, it's night here. And he gives my phone to my grandmom, and my grandmom says that, I said, in my native language, which I'm very comfortable, everybody can tell. I said, BG, बड़ा घबराया मेरा दिल ना, मेरी जान निकलती थी मेरी, तो वैसे थोड़ी आवाज़ सुननी सी. It means my heart is shrinking, like beating too fast. I just want to hear your voice. And she's saying, what happened? I said, I'm very lost right now because President Barack is about to enter. But President Obama is about to enter. She was 94, and forgive her for this. And she says, what? She heard the word lost and she heard the word Obama. She heard that I lost my pajama. She is having a panic attack. That early in the morning, for her it's early in the morning, my grandson can't find his pajama. And she's freaking out to my father that I told you not to send him. He is not a very smart guy. And I told that, and I thought that was like, I said, you know what, I can't talk to you guys. I just hung up the phone. And that was so endearing. For them, it doesn't matter whom you're cooking for. Your small loss or your small discomfort is something which can ruin my life. This is what they stood for.
He sent you all the way to America and you lost your pajamas.
Pajama. Who cares what you're cooking for?
Okay, we're going to take just a 3-minute and 10-second break. We are, just to dim the lights. We have to walk over here so people can see. It won't surprise you to know that all these things we've been talking about have attracted some interest in the film world. So have a look, and then we'll have another guest come up.
Women in my family extremely courageous, very brave, and always standing for the children, empowering them. Mother is the greatest part of life on earth. Sometimes when she felt I was weak enough, she would always say that you were never born to walk, you were always born to fly. Poverty teaches you much more than degrees or any school education. The fruit which suffers the most eventually becomes the sweetest. Only then the story is going to become big, when it's your story, your words. I felt that all my treasures were in the kitchen. Simple rituals of cooking, just a ceremony of those flavors. I found every vegetable so sensuous. I thought, it has such a beautiful form of creation, its own distinct character. Just the puffing of the bread, I felt it was such a great form of art in cooking. My true being was in those majestic kitchens. It was like poetry flowing, and you don't need language. Art is art. Michelangelo could tell us the bigger story of human body and beauty without us speaking Italian. So was the music, and so was the food. The sun doesn't only rise back of your house and sets in front of your house. There is a bigger story of the world. I didn't know much about America. I come to New York barehanded, nothing. I didn't have any work permits, nothing. I was just working in this small place, but the chef did not like me. And one day takes a cleaver, the big one, and bang! He almost chopped off my fingers. I've heard that 1,000,000 times. I'm nobody and I will never be anybody. I said, I will be somebody one day. So you've got to create yourself every day to exist, to be remembered. This is your benchmark. You've got to create this one day.
So, come on up. That's the trailer for a film that doesn't exist yet, and we've got a commitment to show it in a first or close to first screening in New York. Here, Andrei Severny, the director.
Good evening.
Come take a seat next to Vikas Khanna. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
there's some obvious, I was going to ask you before I had seen this, before I'd really learned all about the things we've been talking about why you would want to make a film, and now I think, why wouldn't you want to make a film?
Exactly.
But can you talk a little bit about how this project has come to be, and what of all the things we've been talking about has inspired you most?
I met Vikas.
Andre, by the way, is from Moscow. He's an accomplished documentary and filmmaker of his own right. I should have done a more...
Russian-Indo relationship.
That's true, and that's probably part of the reason why I became so interested in the story. We met a few years ago, and I've always had the fascination with India, just from my childhood. My father went to India.
We met in 2007.
Yep.
I was hosting a fundraiser, and he was the guest.
Oh.
So I've always had just a huge fascination with India. I was born in Russia, in the Soviet Union at that time, and there was a lot of friendship, a lot of events that were taking place, and it was always so fascinating to see this other world. And my father was always speaking very highly of India as being like no other country in the world, really completely different culture. So the story is, so I met Vikas, we were working on a different project. He came to know my other work, which was an art film that we did with the Russian ballerina Diana Vishneva. The film is called Gravitation, and she wanted to experiment a little bit, to do something different in cinema. So we did this really experimental work that we shot entirely in slow motion with cameras that you normally shoot bullets flying through watermelons and things like that. So we did it with her, and she's this phenomenal ballerina with the incredible abilities. Just you wouldn't think that it's possible to do what she's doing. So Vikas loved that film, and we were working on a couple of photography projects. And while working on them, he was telling me some of the stories, some of what you guys were talking about. So I definitely thought that this has to be told in a proper film format. Some of the things I thought were very cinematic, and I wanted to do something that would be inspiring, because I very much think that the story of Vikas is very inspiring for the younger generation, for anybody who's really struggling and has a certain passion, and you never know if something good is going to come out of it. And the story is, a lot of it has to do with hard work, with perseverance. There's, of course, some lottery involved, but not...
Do you get the pajamas in there? Or
it's probably not going to make it in the final cut.
The director's cut, right?
Right. But that's my personal favorite.
And this is just, so you've shown just the preview at the Cannes Film Festival, by the way. And I know Vikas said you're a perfectionist, so we have no idea when the film is actually going to be released. But can you give us a rough idea, or what are your plans?
We're trying to finish it by the end of the year. It's very hard to talk about specific dates, because not only we have to finish, but then we would like to show it in festivals, so you never know what exactly the timeline is going to be. But it's pretty much, we finished all the filming. We went to India, and it was one of the most incredible experiences in my life. And
to film or to show this?
To film.
Yeah.
To film. So of course the story, half of the story takes place in India.
Right.
So it was very important to be there, and not only to understand what it was really like, but to have all these visuals that would support it. And I had a pleasure of meeting Vikas's family, which was absolutely incredible, and his mother is a racer, for example. So there's some things
right?
in the family. Yeah. It's something absolutely phenomenal. That
Now, have any of your family members seen the 3-minute thing we've just seen?
They don't care. They just don't care about anything.
Yeah.
And then keep asking, did you eat? And it's like, okay, I'm telling you something big is happening here. We are going to France.
Did you eat?
Did you eat? It's like, that's the only question. And you answer that, and then they'll say, what did you eat? It's like, nobody gives you even a moment. I'm very close to my family, extended family also.
Yeah.
They don't care at all. I'm telling them, I'm sending him a new book. It's coming out next week. I'm going to send you. He's saying, we don't need it. I said, out of gratitude, I'm sending. Okay, we don't need it. It's like, don't waste money.
Okay, 2 notes for the audience. First of all, time for questions. You have questions, just raise your hand. And also, speaking of did you eat, there is a reception with some excellent Indian food following up in our Garden Court Cafe when we're done.
My favorite restaurants in America. Me and my sister, every time I need to get my sister out of the city, I just say one word. I say Raj Bhog. It's in Jackson Heights. It's a restaurant. The women cook, and it's like so fresh and absolutely home cooking. Yeah. So that's the only way I can get my sister out of the city. Oh. I just have to use one word, Raj Bhog, and let's go. So I called Nirav, and I said, Nirav, you know, you're my sister's favorite restaurant of mine too. So he's gotten some appetizers.
That's what you'll have after the program. Anybody have a question for Vikas or for Andre Severny? I'm blinded by this light here. Okay. Okay, there's a person on the end there. We also have questions. Oh my goodness, we have a lot of questions from around the world. So
a lot of people were up all night in India. I'm telling you this because it's Ramzan going on. So they said we're going to be up all night till we see this.
Yeah. Well, okay. Right there, go ahead.
Hi.
If you could just say who you are and who you want to direct your question to.
Sure. I'm Chatrini, and my question is for Vikas. Vikas, your story and your journey is absolutely remarkable. My question is, what inspires you, and what has inspired you up to now, and what inspires you moving forward?
I'm writing my 34th book.
Your 34th book?
Yeah. So every time I'm writing something, I need to break the mandala. I don't know if you know about that word. You know, in Buddhism, every time there's a big Kal Chakra happening, they make a huge mandala out of sand. House of Cards, everybody seen? Oh, they make the mandala. Yeah. They make it for 12 days. On the 12th day, they destroy it. That is the greatest inspiration. Greatest. I love it. My family doesn't care what I do here. If you're cooking for somebody, if you're flying to Vatican or Buckingham Palace, they don't care. Because they say, keep your crown outside this call. That really inspires me, that I need to do something more humbling. Every time I'll do something, I'll destroy it as a mandala has to be destroyed for new incarnation. So I'm writing my first fiction for the first time. And India is too inspiring because it's never the same India every time you go back. And I love the smaller cities in India, which Andre says the same thing. He's saying people have no concept of time. He's saying, I saw these people eating when we went for shooting and we came back, they're still eating. I said, yeah, it's only 3 hours.
I want to take just a couple and then we'll come to you on the end, but because there are a couple of questions coming in here that can be answered very quickly, okay? So Archie asks via Twitter, what's your favorite ingredient to use when making a dish? Are those rose petals or?
I think the favorite I get stuck on that word. It changes many times. It changes a lot, depending on the energy of the dish. But I'm very, nowadays, and it changes with my mood also. People say mood swings. So it changes but nowadays it's fresh turmeric. If anybody's not used this, please go to Kalustians or Jackson Heights. Please buy fresh turmeric. It's now in healthy stores also. You just peel them and use them as ginger. You can crush them, add them to salads. This is my latest inspiration
Got it.
right now.
And another quick one, your restaurant, Junoon, Michelin-starred, etc. How did you arrive at the name, Junoon? Not a quick one?
Not a big one.
And you don't even want to answer? Wow, okay.
I love the Pakistani band Junoon, if anybody's heard of that.
The Pakistani band Junoon.
Have you heard of it?
I'm sure we've had them on our stage, but no, I've never heard of it.
Ariana King, I'm actually a reporter from the Nikkei Asian Review. So you mentioned some of the discrimination you had faced based on the color of your skin. I'm wondering if you can share, has there been any other instance of discrimination? And do you think that you would have been as successful as you are if you had come to America today?
If somebody will break my roof now, if I was in India, I'll still come. I'll have no place to go. America is a country which is an amazing world stage. Amazing. The concept of running water, like it's always fresh. There's something here is always the country is reinventing itself. Yes, I would come here again and again.
But I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, the question was, do you think you could? Was that the question?
That was the question.
Yeah.
If the same immigrant officer is there, nobody can stop me. I will irritate him to that point, he will give me the visa. What you said, discrimination? I think Lara loved that answer. By the way, Lara had the first Indian meal which I had cooked. Lara is Andre's daughter. She's sitting right there.
Oh.
And I love it. She
Hi, Lara.
When Andre came on the stage, she's giving thumbs up like, good luck.
You can ask your dad a question. Maybe not.
She's 3 years.
You know, you can't be defocused by some idiot who has such a closed mind that your art and your work and your food and your regard is all based on your pigmentation. There are some fools, but they don't decide destiny of the world. Some people can restrict themselves to it, but that is his choice. I didn't tell that to my parents at all, but I told my father later because I was very down about this. And everything I'll feel, I was getting unsuccessful. I said, maybe because of this. Some people put the fear in your mind. But my dad always said, you're my Rocky. People will set you up for failure, but you will still be victorious. I always remember that line.
From his video cassette library. Right?
Yeah.
But it is, I mean, because in a serious note, I mean, we've had conversations here. There was that attack on the young Indians in Kansas, and I know that whatever the nature of what happened here, there was a huge feeling within India, oh my goodness, what's happening in America, and even some stories that suggested that even from people who could come here, they were saying, you know, maybe we don't want to go.
Some people don't define us. I don't remember the name of that guy. My mother doesn't remember his name, so he's not important. I remember Hiroko's name, who published my first book. Until the day I'll die, I'll remember that name. She sat in my apartment and she's listening to me without any judgment of me telling her that, yes, we had no food at home. We only had potatoes when we were going through riots. She's saying, this is a story you need to tell out. I'll rather use my brain's, what do you call, hard drive, to save that moment, not that. The other one. And everybody faces discrimination. Everybody. You could be any person. You all face discrimination. We all do that.
Wait, if you can hang on just 1 second, Josetta, for a microphone.
Vikas, now that you are so successful, would you ever consider going back to India and open a restaurant there?
Destiny. If it has got to happen, it will happen. It's got to happen, it will happen. After my father passed away 2 years ago, I didn't know how to deal with the world. So I went and I was hiding in Varanasi. It's the place which is the oldest living city in the world. And every time I meet anyone, I said, please visit 2 places. Thimphu in Bhutan and Varanasi in India. You will not be the same once you leave that place. And because my grandfather used to love that city, so I went there after my father passed away. He's saying, the city will teach you, stay in the present moment. And that's why I don't plan anything. I'm totally displanned, unplanned, I'm totally that word. If it'll happen, it'll happen. But maybe one day I want to open in Paris. One day I want to open in Paris. I don't know why.
Paris?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Something inside me, every time I go to Paris, I said they need to try something new. Yes.
Why don't we take the two that look to me to be in the same row there, one at a time, maybe one mic there, and then you can pass it down. Thank you.
Namaste.
Hi.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure and privilege to be here. Firstly, Chef Vikas, I'd like to say many a times when I felt to be inspired, I've looked up to you. I've been in the F&B industry as well, and it's been such an privilege looking up to you and moving ahead. My question to you is, what would you say, or rather your advice, to chefs and budding aspirants in the F&B industry? Thank you.
A lot of people in America don't know that I host India's biggest TV show. It's called MasterChef India. It's a cult show. So because of that, you get a lot of leverage in entering people's homes every single night. Our viewership is about the population of America. That shows it's like 300 million people watch it on a good night. I always say one thing that don't let anyone define your limit. Don't try to be somebody else, because I've seen when I was pretending to be somebody else, it was very difficult because I was always uncomfortable. There was always something which was telling me that this is not you. Experiment, give reverence to what you're doing, but be yourself.
So this makes me want to ask Andre a question. I know from even just being a journalist, when you have all your quotes and you feel like, okay, I'm going to write my article or make my TV piece now, and then the subject just keeps talking, how do you deal with the fact that this guy is just a quote a minute here? And you've shot your film. Do you ever feel like you have to go interview him again and again and again to say all these memorable things?
That's part of the reason why we haven't finished yet.
Really? Is it because of me? That day I was very sad when I said that the fruit which suffers the most turns to be sweetest. That day I was sad when I did that.
Yeah. So, I know we were going to go here. Just a really fast thing. Well, no. Let's stick with the audience, and then we'll come back to this. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Vikas.
Hi.
Just want to tell you, first of all, that you are the most good-looking chef I've ever seen. Yeah. And my question is that, like when I leave from here, I want to take one mantra from you, to me, for us. I have a small clothing line, so I've just started. So I just want what mantra would you give me, to keep myself motivated in life and keep on going and never giving up, so that I remember later on that Vikas said this to me, so I have to keep on going.
No pressure.
Thank people. I have one thing I've learned. Thank people who bury you. You will never turn to a plant if somebody doesn't bury you. Thank people. Those are the most important people. In my life, they have been the most important, who were trying to cut your fingers off, or who were trying to lock you in the deep freezers, or who were trying to lock you. Yeah, it was true.
Somebody actually did lock you in a deep freezer, right?
Somebody locked in the deep freezer. Not a good experience. And then one of the guys who was a dishwasher, look how destiny works. I used to hate that guy who was the dishwasher. I used to hate him because every night he'll steal ice cream. And he'll still steal. Before he'll go on the train, he'll be eating ice cream in front of me. I said, you steal ice cream every day. And that day he comes to steal the ice cream, and I was about to die inside the deep freezer. So I'm thankful to the chef who actually locked me there. And I think we need to thank all those people. Don't name them. They're not important. But they're very significant.
See, that's another one. You got to have the pajama story, the freezer story.
I know, right?
Freezing story is not there.
So Adnan asks via email, I don't know where Adnan is, you made a book titled Ayurveda, one of the 34 books, Ayurveda, The Science of Food and Life. Adnan wants to know, how did you gain the background knowledge for that specific book?
It's a very small book. In my future, one of my projects is based on a very intense work on Ayurveda. I was doing a small lecture at New York Public Library in 2005, and they wanted me to do something because the organizers were like, okay, do something new. So I have no idea. I've never spoken to Americans. I don't know what is new and what is old for them. So I learned few things of Ayurveda, which, everybody is a doctor in India. No? Everybody will tell you a treatment for something. So I started doing that I'm a doctor. I started figuring out things and putting some facts together. And I did a book of 60 pages. And nobody came for that lecture in New York Public Library, by the way. Only it was me and the organizer. So she's saying, oh, you told me that thing before, don't repeat it. So it was a very simple synopsis of something in future.
And speaking of books, Kinjal asks via Twitter, will you write a book on Gujarati culture and cuisine?
I love
Number
Gujarat.
35.
No, not yet. I think there's an amazing, massive chapter of Gujarati cuisine in most of my books. And Sarah's right here, who's a great Gujarati cook. Hard to believe from the appearance. But I feel that there's so much to be covered. And I've promised myself for 50 books. I'm not an author by any standards. I promised my dad I'll write 50 books. And I was young. And he used to tell me, study. I said, don't worry, people are going to read my books. I said, who's going to write? I said, I'm going to write 50 books in my life. He said, get out. So I'm just keeping my promise to him.
Time for a couple more. Here in the front, we have a question. Okay, hang on for the microphone if we could.
Kim Valentini, first of all, this is the best lecture at the Asia Society ever. And you're absolutely adorable and entertaining. Okay. Do you think people influence their own destiny?
Of course. Of course. A lot of people had approached me. Not a lot, 4 people. 4 is a lot? No, not as when you compare populations of a country, but 4 production houses had approached me for making a film on my life. Some had written a book and they wanted a central character, all those things. Destiny? When I met Andre, and first time I'd cooked for his daughter, and he talked to me about something of thank you and gratitude and everything, I knew it, that if I can trust somebody with my destiny, with this, it has to be him. I think everything is mutual. What we give is exactly what we get. Exactly what we get. No, I think most of the times. But people take a lot of undue advantage also when you're sometimes quiet. They think your silence is your weakness.
But that's more of an instinct.
I'm glad you asked the question because in some of our earlier conversation tonight, whether it's meeting all these dignitaries or Michelin Star, all the things you've achieved, you come back to that answer, destiny. But clearly, I take it from the tenor of your question that there's no doubt you've made your destiny. And there is the lottery, I guess, but
And hard work.
And hard work, right?
I was not made for TV.
Oh, yes, you are.
So I used to have a small restaurant, very small restaurant near Wall Street, on Fulton Street. And one lady used to come there. She used to eat, I used to make utpam. I used to be in the front, cash, and I used to do the South Indian food also. We have steam table, those kind of small restaurants, $6 lunches. It was called a spice route. Beautiful time I used to have there. I never thought there's something else in life. A woman used to eat there who referred me to Gordon Ramsay. It's really funny.
That's a good reference.
And she calls me and says, we are doing a show in America called Kitchen Nightmares. I have no idea about it. And Gordon is doing an Indian restaurant. It was actually a Bangladeshi restaurant. Close. But he's saying we're doing an Indian restaurant, and he's stuck now in the middle of the shoot because nobody speaks English in the kitchen. Would you be able to come as a consultant? But I said, I don't speak English too. He's saying, don't worry, we will write whatever you will say, we'll write it down in English, subtitle it. Imagine. And she says, can you come and meet him? I said, I can't come. I'm alone right now for lunch, and I have to do the cash closing also, and it's Friday. Look at me, what am I... Look, and she goes and tells Gordon that this chef is there, he doesn't want to come. He's saying, what? He's saying, yeah, but he's amazing. You meet him one time. And somehow I said, I'll come out at 3 o'clock after my break. And they called me non-stop. I go to meet Gordon Ramsay, and he's there. He's God for us. Stroke of destiny.
So I have two quick questions, and it's very inspiring stories. I can't help looking forward to your food you cook. But my question is, what's the most challenge when you do some cooking? Although you are a very well-recognized chef, and will you be a chef for your whole life?
He's already 10 other things, right? But will you be a chef your whole life? Will you?
No. I want to have a farm where I can go and settle. I want to.
In this country or in your country?
And then I'll run in this country. Yeah. And then I'll run my foundation. I just want to do that in a few years. After sometimes it's very difficult, few things which people don't realize. It's very difficult. First thing is that managing so many things, what you're doing, your schedules and everything is crazy. I shoot 3 shows in a year. Mm-hmm. I do National Geographic Mega Kitchens, I do Fox, I do MasterChef. I don't want to do TV. I keep pushing, but it's so cult-based now. And I don't do it for money, I don't do it for anything. I don't do it for appraise also. But I think after some time I feel I need to shed all this and I need to have a farm. I was the happiest as a child when I used to go to farm, and I feel that I can run my foundation. I'm based out of America. By the way, I have more than 20,386 children in India, which we support around the clock for everything. And I want to increase that number to 1 million. And I can do that if I take a step back. In a few years, I want to break my own mandala and die and be reincarnated again. I want to reincarnate.
So I just want to leave with one thought. Every word you've said sounds like a finishing thing, but I just want to add one more thing. And I realize this last point is the thing keeping us from our Indian food. But I hope you don't mind. I didn't ask you before. You've talked a lot about your dad. And I read many things just to get myself a little better informed for tonight. But the thing that I just found so moving and inspiring, you talked about, well, this is an article about it, but in January of 2015, you called home to speak to your parents. And your dad was all excited that day about Serena Williams winning the Australian Open. And you had some sort of deal or association with Mercedes, and I'm just quoting from the article here. That's when his father casually mentioned to Vikas that it had always been his dream to drive his son's Mercedes. His father had never talked about the wish before. Why didn't you tell me? Vikas asked him. Well, you never asked. And I'll spare all the details, but later that same day was the day that Vikas' father passed away. And Vikas wrote on his Facebook page, I guess soon after, I wish I could have done more for him, made him proud, fulfilled all his wishes. Don't wait for a single more moment. Our parents might never ask for anything and just give all their lives for us. Surprise them, spoil them, hug them, ask them about their dreams, and love them. I read this on Father's Day. And that immigrant dad of mine died a long, long time ago, but I just wanted to thank you for that. I don't want to bring you to tears in the last moment of what's been such a great program, but you want to say a couple words about this guy before we call it a night?
I think he was very supportive of what I did later in life. And that thing just kills me every day when he says, "You never asked me what my dream was." He just made joke out of it, and after 2 hours he passed away, and Serena Williams won. I can't even look at Serena Williams. She's my favorite person. So every time Serena Williams posts something, without reading, I like it. I don't want to read, I don't want to look at her also, but I have to like every post, whatever she posts. Yeah. Because my father had never, he says that, I know I can feel what she must have gone through. And he would always say that this is my tigress. He'll always sit there all night because of time difference. And he'll watch her. And I think it's amazing when you look at how India was built on. We don't have something like student loans in India. A lot of people don't know about that when I speak to them in America. We don't have a concept that our parents are not going to send us to college, we have to study on our own. You experience that how everything is for you when the child is born. And they gave everything. He got me my first tandoor, my first clay oven. And he first insulted me so badly that, and later he actually got me the first clay oven. It was blue color. And when I got the first Michelin Star, I fell on the floor. And the first time, you get a call from the Michelin guide, and they say that you are a Michelin Star chef. And on my notice board, I always had one piece of paper which said, "They came to bury me. They forgot I was a seed," which Andre picked up as one of the main lines in the movie. And I kept saying, "Thank you, Papa, thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa, thank you, Mama." Because it took a whole nation, it took a whole generation's sacrifices so that their son can sit here one day and talk about them.
Thank you, Vikas. I have a very boring little piece of housekeeping to take care of, which is boring but important. You will have received on the way in a program survey. If you haven't filled it out, please just take some moment. It's not just about tonight, it's really about all the programming here. Huge thanks to Andre Severny, and we can't wait to see the film.
Thank you so much.
And to Vikas Khanna.
Part of my crew is here as well. There's Stephen Cardone, who's also working tirelessly on the editing. And my wife, Ruda Severny, was part of the crew in India.
And Ludus is the first person. Ludus is the first person I've seen who goes to India from here and who enjoyed the food more than me. She ate everything on the street, from aam papad to golgappas. I'm not going to name it in the whatever English version loses the taste. But I've never seen somebody so full of life, and it's like a total honor for me to be in front of the camera because I felt safe when he was shooting me.
Yeah. You're pretty full of life yourself.
Because I make fun of myself.
Thank you, Vikas. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.